Hello everyone, welcome to this live session. We are going to talk a lot about sim racing and sim sports and Asetek tonight, of course. But let me just explain to you the premises here. I'm right now in our race shop at our corporate headquarters in Aalborg in Denmark. It's outside normal working hours, so I expect us to be alone. I have a couple of guys behind the cameras and behind the sound system. I have a couple of guys behind the desk taking your questions. But since it is a live session, things will probably go wrong somehow. My mom will call or something will happen and the alarm will go off. But I hope you will forgive me about that. It's the first time we try this. So the essence of doing it live, of course, is that you guys and girls can ask all the questions you want. And I want to encourage you to do that. I have this little tablet here. And then when you send the questions, the team down there will take them and send them to me, and then hopefully I can answer them. So yeah, once again, welcome. I'll encourage you to ask all the questions you have. It'll be best if they are within sim racing or within Asetek SimSports, because then I think I can answer them. But if you ask me anything else, I'll of course try and see if I can help you out one way or the other. But let's dig into the first question here. We got some questions in advance, and then we are getting some I can see already as we speak. But the first one is from Bailey Olsen from Facebook. André has talked about the want for console compatibility, but due to chip shortages, it's making it hard at the moment. Expecting DD bases to launch as PC only, should we expect to be able to upgrade these to support consoles, or will we have to wait for a console-specific base to be launched? That's of course a very good and very relevant question. And not everything is up to me, but what I can say is that if you buy a wheelbase, my guess, it is a guess because we're not there yet, but my guess would be that you would be able to still use the wheelbase because the handshake chip, if we take Sony for example, will probably be hidden in the steering wheel. And if it does not turn out, as I say here, we'll do our best, of course, to offer an upgrade path. Of course, I want to sell you guys as much sim racing equipment as I can, so we can hire more people and develop more exciting products. But we really don't want to, sell our customers one wheelbase just for 6 months later to buy another one. That's not the way we want to make money. So of course we'll try to, thinking out loud here, it could be that we may need to change the PCB in the back or something like that. But for sure, console support is it's high on our list. One of the reasons it's high on our list is that I think in that space, most of the sim equipment that's there is not necessarily high-end, and just because you're on a console, that does not mean you don't want high-end equipment. But a lot of people, also people I know, they don't really like to tinker with PCs and all the challenges that that can give. It's out of our hands in the sense that we are in contact with Microsoft, we are in contact with Sony, but it's kind of at their speed and their premises right now. Yeah, I think that's enough for console support. Then we have a Reddit user here. It looks more like a math formula than his name, so I'll save you from reading that out loud. Do you plan to produce motion system that will not break the bank? Motion seats, do you plan to sell rigs in the future? Great questions. Yes, for sure, we are going to design our own rig, and according to plan, not always things are going according to plan, but according to plan, it will be available for sale probably a year from now. During next year, we will have the rig available for sale. It's already on the drawing board. In terms of motion systems, yes, we will offer that as well. And like any of our other products, we will try to make it as affordable as we can, of course. In terms of motion, I think it should be fun to do sim racing, but it should also be realistic, and that's really what we are trying to achieve with our products. And those of you who know us already, they know that this is really our, what should we call it? That's our recipe, that's our mantra, that's why we are doing this. We want to make it look like and feel like a real car. And in terms of motion, there's actually not a lot of movement in most cars, unless you're driving a beach buggy or UTV or something like that. Most race cars are actually not moving a lot. So we do believe there are smart and intelligent ways of doing it where the feeling is realistic and absolutely not breaking the bank. Let's see here. Then we have you ever considered building an active brake setup for simulators? I'm not sure what you mean. It's Brett from YouTube. You're welcome to send one more question or more details if you want. But as I understand your question, we are talking about ABS, so that there will be the same feeling in the pedals like you have in a real car. And I can say yes, for sure that will be coming, and for sure it will be active, and for sure it will be the same ingredients of a hydraulic system as in a car. There will not be any vibrators or things like that. This will be the real deal. And again, the trick here is not to build a $2,000 system. Everybody can do that. The trick, of course, is to make it reasonably affordable. So we will come with that. We have Johnny Morera from YouTube. What are your short-term plans to increase distribution within the US? Excellent question. We are doing two things currently. One thing is we are building and filling our own hubs as we speak, meaning that people ordering directly from our website will get their products much faster. And I think that's perhaps hidden in the question. If you buy an $8 spring from us in our web shop, it costs $30 in shipping. Makes absolutely no sense. On that we agree. So we'll try to fix that. But more importantly, we are expanding our US distribution, so our resellers. And I will encourage you to support these guys instead of ordering on our web shop. Egoistically, we make much more money when you buy directly from us, but we are in a different time zone. Support is more difficult. So if at all possible, order from your local reseller. As we are still a new company within sim racing and we are launching a lot of new products, some of the challenges that you see, and frankly we see as well, is of course the shipping delay. So just for the sake of the argument, let's say that we launch our wheelbase 2 months from now. Before we actually have containers in the US, before they are there, before we have it in the hubs and in inventories, there's just a delay. But eventually it will all pick up. And as far as I know, all our US resellers are actually waiting for product. So please don't blame them. The blame is on us. We have simply not been able to ship, but it's all getting better right now. We have Cash also from YouTube. Will you make adapters to allow other steering wheels to be used with your wheelbases? So there are essentially two ways of looking at this. There is the end user angle, which I believe you are asking about. We will see what we can do in making kind of universal adapters to other brands' steering wheels, and then still be able to use them with our wheelbases. And when I say use them, mechanically, I can guarantee it will do it because mechanically it's easy. But what we will try to achieve, of course, is if you have a USB-based steering wheel, that if it supports whatever standards we need in our system, that we can also make it wireless for you, so that you can actually use our wheelbase as it's intended. So yes, the intentions are there. We are still working it out. But the other angle that I was referring to is from our perspective, we can call it the OEM angle, where we have actually contacted a number of other steering wheel manufacturers directly and offered them to use our Quick Connect, partly because then they will be able to, of course, support our wheelbases. And if they don't make wheelbases on their own, that could be a win-win for everyone, not the least the end users. But also because then they don't have to worry about developing yet another quick release on the market. So we are working it from both angles, and we are absolutely not against working with other companies on doing a quick connect that's cost effective and also works and is reliable. Will there be a future project on a Pagani steering wheel? That's from Game Noob, also on YouTube. Great question again. Yeah, you want the honest answer? The honest answer is we have the steering wheels, and we are considering doing it for sure. What it comes down to at the end of the day is really timing. Where does it fit into our pipeline, and does it fit in? How well will the Pagani pedals be perceived and received? So it's definitely not a partnership that we intend to stop with the pedals. I just cannot say anything about timing at the moment. What can we expect from the wheels when they launch? What will change from the prototypes seen at Gamescom? I think functionality-wise, what we showed at Gamescom was pretty close. What we showed was the Forte wheel. I would have preferred to show the Invicta wheel because that contains a display and is just a little bit more, but it was not ready. And the reason the display version is not ready is simply because of the global component situation, that we were not able to log in the design until later compared to the Forte wheel. So if we just focus on the Forte wheel, this is actually one of the Forte wheels from the Gamescom show. And this looks like cheap plastic because it is. We did not have the parts ready, so this was actually a 3D printed sample. I believe it's pretty good for a 3D print, but for sure our product will look much better than this. The outer dimensions and things like that will be the same, but you know, the buttons will actually be 2 colors instead of gray. 3D print. Same with the wheels here. The LED will be much more intelligent in the sense that there will be small markers on them showing what it is, and these are also just prototypes. Everything on this steering wheel are prototypes. I can talk a little bit about the material. The Quick Connect interface, what actually mates with the wheelbase is of course aluminum. It's die-cast aluminum that's CNC machined and anodized. In terms of the wheel itself, we had different options, of course, from CNC manufacturing, CNC manufactured aluminum, to the other extreme, carbon fiber that is handmade. And none of these things made sense in our head because, again, what we would like to achieve here is to make affordable, high-quality products. And CNC machining, carbon fiber, it doesn't really tick that box. So what we have done is we have invested a lot of money in tools, and then we are using a composite material. So it's a carbon composite. There will be carbon fibers in it. There will be glass fibers in it. And then, of course, it's a material that can be injection molded. So you will get a very rigid structure and still in a quite nice and exotic material. And some of the challenges we've had was that we wanted the end user, meaning you, to be able to exchange these handlebars. And we all want a stiff steering wheel, but how do you make a steering wheel stiff when at the same time the end user can actually and is allowed to remove these and change them for something bigger, different colors, different hardnesses, etc. So that has been a big engineering project over here, and I think we have accomplished it, but I don't want to spill all the beans on the steering wheels at this moment, but that will be the main differences from what we showed. Let's see. So, André, thank you for doing this. You're welcome. Stratton Hips from Facebook. It's also fun for me. It's fun to engage with the community and see what you guys like and perhaps also what you don't like. You ask here whether it's been asked already if we plan to build additional peripherals such as shifters and handbrakes. And the short answer is yes, of course. The vision is we are going to do everything, and we also have early prototypes of these things laying around that we have built, and we know how we want them. You know, in SimSports, we are a small company. In the bigger world, in the gaming world, we are a little bit bigger company, but we still have resource constraints. And since we are doing everything from the bottoms up, you know, we are not buying a set of pedals somewhere and then we copy them and put them into manufacturing. We are actually trying to be disruptive and trying to do things from the bottom. We are, of course, not blind or stupid, but we are trying to do things from the bottom, and it takes time to do everything from the bottom. So we have this hierarchy of how we prioritize, and I can share that with you for sure. we wanted to get the pedals out first, the Invicta pedals and the Forte pedals. We did that, as you know. The next most important from our perspective is, of course, the steering wheel and the wheelbases. So they will be next in line. After that, and if you sit back now and wonder why didn't you put out the wheel and the wheelbase first, because that would be the nicest, I don't disagree, but it would have taken much longer time. So, you know, then we would have been for a year without any product. So that's actually why we started with the pedals. The steering wheel and wheelbases have been under development in parallel. So the next thing that will come will be the rig. That is the focus for next year, rigs and seats. And I don't want to go into too much detail about the rig, other than I personally believe it will be very nice in the sense that it will be able to be packed and shipped in a very small form factor. And at the other hand, we are not just buying standard aluminum stuff and chopping it up that you can buy on every corner. It will be an Asetek specific design and infrastructure. So I think you should be looking forward to that. But along with that, so talking about next year, I think there will be room that we can come out with shifters and handbrakes. On the steering wheel side, we obviously have more plans than to launch a Forte Formula wheel. There will be an Invicta Formula wheel, as already mentioned, with the display. There will, of course, also be GT wheels, different types of GT wheels. And it's our plan that going forward, I don't want to put a sequence in, but it could be that once a year we are releasing new wheels or new upgrades for our wheels, and that's something we want to keep doing on an ongoing basis. Of course, we want to keep developing our software, make it easy, make it simple, easy to use, easy to understand. That's some of the things that we're looking at the software side. Here's a funny one. Will you release separate pedals so we can choose the distance ourselves? Good question. I have, of course, seen this question 200 times before. And if you asked me a year ago, I would just have said no. And the reason I would have said no is that in my, let's say, racing head, my real racing head, it doesn't make sense. Because if you drive a race car, you can't see it, but we have one right over here. If you drive that and you jump in the seat, you don't really have the flexibility to do anything else than moving them away and further away or closer to yourself. And since we have this idea of, we want to mimic a real race car, then I didn't really see the point. That being said, I'm also getting older, I'm also getting smarter, and I'm listening to you guys. So we will probably eventually cave in and offer something like people want, so they can drive like a dog, if that's what they think is cool. And it may not take that long, actually. So I don't want to go into too much specifics, but it will be, it will be the Forte, it will be the Invicta. It will just be in a little bit different form factor. It will also be a little bit more expensive, and the reason for that is, if we look at the base plate here, whether you make one that's 2 times bigger or half size, it's almost same cost. But if you want to make separate ones, it's also the same cost. So therefore, they will cost a little bit more. Nothing dramatic, of course. But so yes, I hope you are happy about that. Will there be resellers in the UK, or will we have to buy it through your global store and then sort out import duties, handling fees, etc.? As far as I'm concerned, we do have resellers in the UK. So that's a matter of you going to our website under resellers. As I said before, I think it's much better you support our reseller network, because supporting them, they can support you. And as you point out yourself, it's a nightmare with all the import duties and the shipping. And I'm a big hi-fi freak myself, so I actually buy hi-fi made in Glasgow, so Lynn, in Scotland. And I see this every time I need to ship something back and forth. It's a nightmare. So of course I use the local resellers here in Denmark, and that's what I recommend you guys doing as well. Because we are new, we don't have a huge reseller network yet. And just to share it with you, we do not just take in any reseller. We don't take in any mom and pop who say, now we want to enter the sim racing market. We actually do put down some requirements to them, that they understand our products, that they market them loyally, and they have inventory. If you don't want to have inventory, you cannot be an Asetek reseller. Simple as that. 2 reasons for that. One is, I'm a big geek and tech guy myself, and if I want something, I want it now. So for me personally, if I want to buy something and I cannot get it today, tomorrow I may have lost the interest, so that will be lost sales for us. So we put down these requirements to our resellers. They are excused because obviously they cannot have something in inventory we cannot ship. So there is this chicken and the egg situation right now, but in general, everything should be available from your local reseller. And if you believe there's a reseller that we absolutely should be doing business with and we are not, give us a shout or contact the reseller and ask him to contact us, and then of course we can work it out. Do you think about drive hub compatibility? So that, to me, is primarily a question about the steering wheels, and specifically the steering wheels with a display. And yes, it is something we are thinking about, and we discussed it as late as yesterday with the software team, actually. Whether we are able to have to be seen, but if it's something we can do, it is for sure something we will do, because again, let's face it, software engineers are expensive. When we launch a steering wheel with a display, we will of course have a number of layouts that you can pre-select from. And for, let's say, the casual user, that's more than enough. But we also realize that a lot of people out there who are willing to put in their own hours to make a cool screen layout or a unique screen layout, and they can then share it with other users, etc. So we get that, and we also want to support it. But whether we are able to right here and right now, I simply don't know yet, but we're looking into it. Then sorry, I forgot to mention you guys' name. We have Rich from YouTube. What can you say about the third line of products, Invicta, Forte, and then ... I can't really say much other than we have a platform thinking, because we think that's the smartest for the end user. And let me just give you an example. So here you have, if I remember correctly, an 849 product that's called the Invicta pedals. And here I have a 499 product that's called the Forte pedals. And as you can see, quality, visuals, construction, machining, everything is the same. But we took out the hydraulic cylinder, replaced it with a mechanical cylinder, and because of that we are able to make it so much cheaper. And who knows, perhaps it doesn't end here. There may be a little brother out here one day. But what I can say is, no matter what we do, as long as within, let's say, the physics of what's possible, we will make it so that you can buy our cheapest product, and then on the way you can upgrade it and get more features. And as an example, if you bought the Forte pedals, and further down the line you see that we have made a Thorpe cylinder with an ABS system, and you would like to try that out, then you will actually be able to just buy that part and upgrade your own pedals. So that's what we mean by platforms. And we don't have any desire or plans, at least for now, to go out and make a third set of pedals that's made of flimsy sheet metal and we can sell it for $80. That's not who we are. So if we were to do, let's say, an even lower grade product, it would miss perhaps some of the visuals, the LED lights, some of the stuff, and then you could go and upgrade it on the ways. So that's probably what I am able to share about that. Then of course some of you have asked many times and for a very long time, so let me spill the beans here. The questions are taking it fast here. So when do you think the DD bases from Invicta and Forte with the wheels will hit the market? So not everything is in my control, so take everything with a grain of salt. But I can tell you what the plan is, and then at the same time I'll answer another question about pre-ordering. The plan is that within 4 weeks from today, you should be able to pre-order our wheels and wheelbases. Keep in mind the way we do pre-orders, we don't steal your money and sit on them. So that means that if we are not able to fulfill your order, we will not charge your money. Or if you regret, we are not going to charge your card. That does not mean I encourage all of you to just go and place orders like crazy, because then I buy a lot of inventory and will be very unhappy the day you don't want to buy it. So I'm just telling you that if you plan on upgrading or shifting, you don't really have any risk in doing so. And for us to even open pre-orders, because we don't charge people credit card, obviously we don't want to even set up pre-orders if we don't think we can fulfill it. What's the point? So the plan is we open for pre-orders within 4 weeks from today. And then I would say we have the ADAC show coming up in Nuremberg, and that's where I think we will actually officially launch the wheels and hopefully also have inventory. But I can say that we are a public company with shareholders and stuff like that, and what we have said in public is that we hope to be able to ship before the end of the year. So that's what we aim for, and I think the trade show I'm talking about, if I don't remember wrong, it's in the first week of December. So soon, very soon. Let's see. When designing the Forte or Invicta pedals, did you look at NASCAR or oval racing, or were they designed around road racing? That's Johnny America, YouTube. The brutal, honest answer is that it was road racing primarily. And the main reason is that that's what we do. That's what I've done myself. That's what we still do. That's where we have our exposure. I did attend, when I lived in the US, I did attend a track day at Daytona, and was lucky enough, and I remember the driver, to be a passenger in a NASCAR. And I would say typically here in Europe and in Denmark, people don't really appreciate it. It's like, okay, you are driving in circles, left turn, and all that. But I have to say, after being a passenger in that NASCAR, that close to the walls with 200 miles per hour, and then imagining 30 other cars there, I really got a different view on it. So we are actually going to look in that direction as well. Again, it's different. It's difficult to cope over everything at the same time, but for sure we will be looking that way. And the way we will be doing it is, of course, to investigate what's different from what we do today. Will it be a different elastomer? Will it be a different pedal? Will it be different travel? So we are obviously going to figure that out. And as an example, where we are also not very sharp is actually on the rally side. So as you know, our Invicta pedals, they have not a big travel, and they are never going to get a travel like, for example, the Throttle here, because it's just unrealistic. But we are going to release very soon a long travel kit, which will basically consist of a different piston here. So everybody who have the Invicta pedals, they can just buy this low-cost upgrade if they want it, and then all of a sudden you'll get probably 10-15 millimeters more of pedal travel. So that's a good example of how we try to adapt to other things as well. When will Asetek manufacture a truck wheel for Euro Truck Sim? That's a great question. I would say it's not high on our priority list right now, but for sure when we get down the stack of different steering wheels that we have on our list, why not? Will there be other mounting options for the wheelbases? That kind of implies that people know what we are offering. But what I can say we are looking at, and I'm not sure we are available to come up with more, but if there are more options, then of course we'll do it. We have a table mount, most primitive, most simple one, a table mount. Then we have a rig mount, which it's difficult to see the sim over here, but you can see the videos from the Gamescom show. We actually have something that mounts in the bottom, and then there is in the bottom, and then there is an angle, so you can screw it into a rig, just like if you own a Fanatec DD base where you have the holes in the side, you would be able to do the same with our wheelbase, and at the same time, you would actually be able to slide the wheelbase back and forth, and you would be able to tilt it as well, so pretty universal. Then we are looking into some sort of front mount. I would say the disadvantage with the front mount is that you cannot really slide the motor back and forth. And what we can do with our angle setup is actually well, you can do the same as the front mount, but on top you can also twist it and you can slide it back and forth. But if you, for whatever reason, really just want a front mount, then of course we'll make sure you get one. But the way it's going to work is we are going to supply the motor in its most simple form. I have a prototype here. Let's just get rid of some of this stuff. So we have a motor here. There's no LED or anything like it, but it has the physical form factor. So we are going to supply it like this, and then you will have the two buttons, torque off and on off, and they will come individually with a small plate and T-slots so that you can actually mount that on your rig wherever you would like to have your buttons. And then down here we have the T-nut system as well. So you can mount it from beneath if you drill holes in your rig or in your plate, and you can push it back and forth. And if that's not enough, then we will have all the options I just mentioned. So side mount, front mount, bottom mount, table mount. So I think there should be mounting options for everyone. And if we forgot something, then of course we will just make it. So then we have for how long time will you be able to support your upcoming DD and steering wheels beyond the 2-year warranty period? In one sense, this is a legal question. Well, it is a legal question, but it's also a moral question. To me, it makes no sense if we launch a product and then after 2.5 years it fails, and then we say, sorry guy, you're out of warranty, buy a new one. That's not how we operate. The best way I can perhaps explain it is, I don't know our competitors that well or how they do it, but if you look at some of the videos we have launched for the pedals, so let's take the Forte pedal here. The way it's designed is that we say this cylinder should be able to withstand 1 million activations. And in case of the hydraulic one, 1 million activations at 100 bars of pressure, which is actually quite a lot. And if you try to divide that out, that will be at least 5 years of, let's say, pretty intense use. So that's what our products are designed for. And we intend to back our products. And to back your product actually also have a legal meaning, especially in the US. But what I mean by it is we don't intend to let customers down. I cannot just stand here and say that we are going to cover everything. But you know, there's also something in between. Again, looking from the hi-fi world that I operate in as well, some of the companies I buy from, if something breaks down outside the warranty period, they just have a fixed cost that is not super high, and then basically no matter what the problem is, you know what it's going to cost. We are not there yet. I would be personally very disappointed if we have a general quality problem with our products after 2 years of use. And if it's something we see very rarely, of course, we're going to help the customers out. You know, I don't think it's a secret. We are here in Europe. Engineers here cost a lot of money. Everything costs a lot of money. We will never be the cheapest manufacturer on the block, never. And it's not our plan, it's not our goal, it's not our vision. But it is our intention to have the best customer service. And talk is cheap. Let's talk in 24 months from now, but at least that's the intention. And I happen to be the highest ranked person in this company, so when I say it, you can take it to the bank. Don't misuse it, because it does not mean that we are going to cover everything if you ran it over by your truck and then you come with your sorry pedals and want a new set. Of course not. But within reason, you can count on that. Now I get the question again about the quick release, whether we have any interest from outside companies, GSI, Cube Controls, etc., to use the Quick Connect system. What I can say is that we obviously have NDAs with these companies, meaning that I cannot talk on their behalf or telling what we're doing exactly. But what I can say is we have spoken to a number of other steering wheel manufacturers, and from what I hear from our salespeople, everyone that they have spoken to at least are interested. So that's good news, and that's of course something we are pushing forward, because I think it's to the benefit of everyone. I think in a simulator, pedals and the wheelbase are probably the two components that make the biggest difference. The steering wheel itself, personally, I think it's more I don't want to call it a fashion item, but something that's, okay, I would like something that looks like something from a Porsche, something from an Audi or an AMG or Haas F1 or GT this or GT that. Of course, we cannot make every steering wheel there are out there. It's impossible. So therefore, to me, it's not a problem at all that other steering wheel manufacturers want to support us and we want to support them. It's just to the benefit of the users, and it also should give you the, let's say, reassurance that if you go and buy a very expensive wheel from another manufacturer that we are working together with, then you don't have to worry about support and all that stuff. So yes, it is something we're working on. Excellent question, guys. This is fun. Will you be making a foldable wheel stand for those users that have limited space? I think that's probably one of the few areas where I have to disappoint you, because I know them, and to me that's something you use for drying clothes and not for racing. Sorry, I understand the need, but with our pedals, where you really have to push hard, getting that same flexibility it's not an easy thing to achieve. But for sure, if you have other manufacturers or other brands that make that rig, and you think it can withstand our hardware, then by all means. But it's not something we are looking at right now. Of course, we have eyes and ears. We can see all the low-end stuff being launched these days with very inexpensive wheel motors, steering wheels, pedals, etc. And that's great, because we get more people into sim racing. But it's not our focus. On the other hand, as you can see, we are also not talking $3,000 wheelbases or $2,000 steering wheels. We want to be in between, where we offer great value, great quality, and where at least a lot of people can afford our stuff. So how about your QC department? Are they regularly testing of units, or is it sampling? So right now, our main business in Asetek is liquid cooling. We sell liquid cooling to a lot of the big computer brands, as you know. To pick one, I can take Dell Alienware. If we sell a $50 liquid cooler to Dell Alienware and it fails in the field, that's a big problem, both for us and for Dell, because let's say a $4,000 gaming PC liquid cooler breaks down, they have to ship it back. Just shipping alone ate everybody's margin. So what I'm getting at is quality is something we are taking extremely seriously. And all pedals, for example, leaving our factory, there's 100% test on everything. Of course, there's still the human factor that we do make mistakes. I almost got a heart attack when we had launched our Invicta pedals. And then I saw the first few comments in our Facebook forum that they were leaking. And it's like, how can this even happen? We are testing them. 1,000 activations. Every Invicta pedal have been tested 1,000 times before they leave our factory. But then, you know, it was a gasket, a seal inside that was swapped 180 degrees. And of course, as soon as we realized that, then of course we took measures that it could never happen again. But what I'm just saying is we are launching so many new products, and until you know what can go wrong, it's impossible to tell in advance what will go wrong. So we are doing our best to really take quality seriously, because we know the hard way by selling more than 1 million coolers a year, that if you have a problem, it costs a lot of money and a lot of frustration. So for sure, quality is something we do pretty systematic, I would say. Will you guys be making a middle strength throttle spring? I have the Forte pedals and I feel like the strong throttle spring is a bit too much, whereas the soft spring is a bit too soft. Yeah, either you need to stop exercising or you need to start exercising. It's really difficult to make something that fits all, but for sure we are actually going to change a little bit going forward in the way we do the springs. We will at some point change when the inventory is out. We will change so that the hard spring comes default with all pedals, and then what is actually the hard spring on the Invicta will be default included. And I think that's the one you are asking for. It's not the softest one, it's the softest on the Forte, but it's not the softest on the Invicta. So I think your prayers will be heard. Thanks, Andre. Will you be making round wheels as well? Rally Race are asking. Yes, of course we will. It's a priority thing. It's like, why did we choose the Formula wheel first? There was no really intelligent answer. We started to look at all the wheels with and without display, GTs, etc. And then, you know, during the life of a project like this, you learn different things from your sub-suppliers. The GT wheels, we thought we had it. We were not happy with the quality. Then it became the Formula wheel. So it's not everything. I try to pretend being pretty smart, but I'm actually not always that smart. So sometimes it's just, you know, coincidence. But yes, we have round wheels coming. Do you like historic racing? Will there be historic wheels? Yes, I love historic racing. Well, the truth is I love everything with an engine. The bigger, the better, and the noisier, the better. Will there be historic wheels? Yes, there will be. The plan is also historic shifters and historic brakes. Again, I'm not able to say anything about time, but it is on the agenda. Now, of course, an interesting one. If I want to talk a little bit about the prices of the wheel and wheelbases, I could do that, but I don't want to. You'll see that when we do the pre-order, but I can say something more generic. The Invicta base will be, as it's planned right now, 27 Newton meters. It will be the most expensive one in our lineup. I still believe it will be more inexpensive than what's out there that you can compare with. The Forte will be, I think it's 18 Newton meter, and I don't want to mention a price, but at least as it looks right now, I think it would be by far the lowest cost in that torque range. So you should be. I don't think you'll be disappointed about the price. Let's put it like that. If we miss the pedal pre-order, will you offer a pedal wheelbase wheel bundle at discounted prices? Yes. I think having a set of our pedals without anything else does not make a lot of sense. Depending on how hardcore you are, you may have your dream wheelbase and your dream wheel and just wanted your dream pedals, and then that's fine. But most users want an ecosystem, and they want this, you know, one software where we can connect and control everything. So for sure, we have an interest in pushing bundles, so we will do that. Yeah, I'm just hearing in my ear here that we have 15 minutes left. It's going fast. Will there be a wheelbase and wheel combo, or will they only be sold separately? Yeah, so that's basically what I just answered. I perhaps have one here that we should cover that I prepared a little bit for, because that's an interesting one. It has been mentioned, and you may have seen it or not seen it on different forums, that the Forte pedals could just as well be a potentiometer brake system, because our load cell is depending on physical movement. So I prepared a little show and tell here, because let's face it, at the end of the day, most people don't really know what a load cell actually is. And I only know because I'm now building sim products. No, I actually knew it from university. So what we have here is what we call a load cell. This one happens to be from our Forte pedals. And then the claim goes that we are depending on physical movement, because elsewise it will not sense anything. That was a very smart guy who said that, because he's absolutely correct. And the reason is that this little brown thing with the wires coming out, that's actually a strain gauge. You can put it on a bridge, and then you can see how much is the bridge moving when it's when there's a storm, and you can do all kind of things. You can put it on the building. The way it works is it will change its resistance when it's bent or when it's deflected. So if you put it on a thin piece of pedal or metal like I have here, it's a small load cell. If you put it on a big one like this, a big piece of metal, you could say this load cell is rated for 200 kilos. It's a Maven. It's used by many sim racing companies. In fact, the company is headquartered in Xiamen in China, a few minutes from our liquid cooling factory, so we know them very well. But you can see, if you hold them up against each other, you have this little brown spot on both of them. That's the strain gauge. So it's actually the strain gauge that tells you something about the quality or the resolution. Everything else around it is just a piece of metal. So this one can sense 200 kilos. If you put 200 kilos on this one, you'll obviously bend the metal. Here we have an interesting one. There's a huge load cell. The strain gauge inside is the same as this one. So this one you push directly onto the load cell, and then the strain gauge will deflect, and then it will change its resistance, and then the OS of the brake pedals will then determine, okay, how hard are you pushing? So my argument is that any load cell on the planet is actually relying on physical movement, and that's independent if it's your mom's kitchen weight or if it's a truck weighing a 50-ton truck. Then you could say, okay, what about quality? This one is probably $30. So roughly, when you add VAT, shipping, our margin, reseller margin, this will cost you, the end user, $100. So if we use that in the Forte, the price would be $599 instead of $499. It's big, it's ugly, it doesn't really fit very well within our Forte design here. So why did we pick this one? Well, because it does the job just as well as this one. And of course, we want to pick the cheapest possible version that lives up to our quality standards, so that we can sell the most valuable products without breaking the bank. If you really wanted to take this to the extreme, we could put the strain gauge directly on the pedal, and then you would actually feel the deflection of the pedal. But then again, you would have wires and everything laying around, so what's the point? And then in this question also is you could just as well use a potentiometer. I read it like the people who are talking about potentiometers is because they really don't know what they're talking about. Because you can have bad and cheap potentiometers, and you can have excellent potentiometers. And as an example, the Audi R8 that we had to push out, our GT3 car, it has a travel measuring system on the dampers. And as you can imagine, when you drive a race car and you go over a curb, the wheels are moving really fast. There we have a linear potentiometer. Basically all the race cars I know of, their travel measuring system on the suspension is actually a linear potentiometer. And for sure, we could have put a potentiometer on this one here, and it would be as good, if not better, than most of the sim racing pedals on the market. So don't think that just because something is called a potentiometer, it's bad. There are bad integrations of potentiometers, there are bad pedals, there are cheap pedals, there's everything, but the technology itself doesn't really matter here. And just to talk about the Forte here, you know, some people were worried about the resolution. We get questions like, can it even sense when I'm pushing it a little? So if I just take this load cell here again, this load cell, when you push this with 100 kilos, the load cell will deflect less than 1 millimeter. So what that means is the resolution we have is around 4,000 points. So there's 4,000 points in 1 millimeter of travel. It can sense it if I fart on it. So don't worry, it's really sensitive. And say, how sensitive is it? Well, it actually means that with the resolution we have, each point is 0.00025 millimeters, or a 240th fraction of a human hair. And I'll challenge you that anyone who can feel that resolution with their toes will get a free set of Invicta pedals from me, because that's hydraulic pressure, so that will measure anything. So what I'm just trying to get at here is, what we worry about when we design products at Asetek is they feel right and they work right. If we have competitors who believe we are doing it wrong, then great for them, then they can do it right. I'm not going to compromise the way we do it. We have Formula One drivers, we have race car drivers, we have sim racers, we have, I don't know, 10, 15 reviewers saying that the Forte pedals are some of the best pedals they ever used. You know, that's good enough for me. And if our competitors don't like it, don't buy our product. Speaking about Formula One drivers, I think you can see the rig here in the background. That's actually because Kevin will be here tomorrow. Kevin Magnussen, of course, he'll be here tomorrow to do some sim driving with us. What we are working on is really this feeling of a Formula One car. A lot of you, including myself, may have an idea or an opinion about how it should feel. But let's just face it, guys, none of us really drove a Formula One car, did we? Kevin did, Kevin does. When Kevin tells me now it feels like a Formula One car, I trust him, and so should you. And that may not be the fastest in a sim race. You know, I think often there is a big difference between what feels nice and what is fast. What we want to share with you is the sensation of driving a Formula One car. And it's of course based in software and firmware. So if you want to, you know, live Kevin's world, you can do that with our wheelbases. And then it probably feels pretty weird, to be honest. It does not feel like any car that I've driven before. But then you can just change the setting, and then you're back to whatever you like. So it's just this, you know, knowing what you're talking about issue here, that we want to give you from a Formula One driver how it should feel. And that actually brings me to another issue, which is there's been some discussion about whether a race car pedal is really hard or not, and whether it has a long travel or not. For sure, if we are talking a NASCAR or rally car or a go-kart, there are variances. But in general, race car pedals are hard and they are short. I do admit that I have used terminologies like pushing a rock. And for those of you who don't know me that well, I try to exaggerate to bring my points across. Of course, it's not like pushing a rock, literally, but they are hard. And you can see the Forte pedals here. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I have to use force, but that's how they are. And the reason for that is because it's actually the user's legs and muscles that creates the pressure on the brake discs. Unless you have, what's the English word? A brake booster. And most race cars don't. So have I tried every race cars in the world? No. But I've raced GT3 cars, I've raced road cars. Road cars is a different animal. I've raced formula cars. I've actually been inside the Pagani Huayra several times. My son actually drove it at Paul Ricard recently because I have a friend who's privileged enough to actually own one. This morning, I actually checked out my Ferrari, my F458, which I love. And when I pushed the brake, I was actually a little bit disappointed, like, how can I preach that a performance car actually have a hard brake? And I didn't really remember it like that. Turn the engine on, brake pressure on, and the pedal is hard, rock hard. So I think I'm going to stick to my guns that a race brake pedal should be hard and soft. But then there are these guys, posting all these YouTube videos. I think most of them have never driven anything else than a tuned street car or is trying to upgrade their brakes in their garage. But I think what you have to be careful with when you watch something on YouTube is most race cars will get brake fading during a race. It will get hot, that will get air in the system. At least the race cars that I'm familiar with, we always brake or bleed the brakes at least once a day because they will simply get air in them, and when you get air in, it will turn soft, it will be longer. As the brake pads are worn, sometimes it will get longer. If the brake fluid gets really hot, it will get longer. So be careful to judge too much off of YouTube. In terms of Formula One, that is a different animal entirely. I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, Kimi Räikkönen was actually struggling quite a bit with the brakes all of a sudden. So why was that? That's because he came from something that was pretty hard, rock hard, and then all of a sudden they changed to brake by wire, which is an electronic system. So it could basically be like a throttle. And then the electronic will actually communicate with the server that will then make the brake pressure. So in Formula One, everybody that I know of have kind of changed to this brake-by-wire system, and therefore you have a tendency to see in Formula One that the brakes are actually a little bit softer and a little bit longer travel, unlike, for example, Formula 2 or Formula 3, which is old school, hard and short. But just to round this off on the brakes, last time Kevin was here in the simulator, it was of course not just a steering wheel, we also talked about the Formula One brake. And what turned out was that with our, I believe it was the white, either the black or white elastomer and the long travel kit on the Invicta that we will launch soon, to use his own words, he said, okay, now it feels pretty close to a Formula One car. So for those of you who don't know, who think that we don't know what we are talking about, I'm not saying that you are not right, or I'm wrong, or you are right, or the other way. What I'm saying is we have a Formula One driver here telling us that it feels pretty close to a Formula One car. So I don't have the opportunity to drive an F1 car myself, so I choose to trust him instead. What time is it? 2 minutes. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of questions here. Do you foresee Asetek SimSports becoming the main revenue driver of Asetek as a whole? Well, let's just put things into perspective here and say that in a good year we have a revenue close to $100 million. Another note, that is probably what Fanatec is selling. So yes, it's possible, and I would be happy to see that. We are far from that at the moment, since we have only sold pedals, of course, and assuming our liquid cooling business keeps growing 15% a year, that we've done for many years, then it will be quite some sim equipment, but for sure I'll do my best. Are we up, or do I have time for one more question? All right, so we'll take one more question, and that is actually around K-Mag. I know you work with K-Mag. Will you in the future launch a custom K-Mag F1 wheel? What I can say is that what we are not working on with Kevin is like a stupid branding campaign where he put his signature on it and then you pay 3 times the product so Kevin can become wealthy. What we are trying to do is to work on meaningful features. So for example, the F1 feeling. We are in dialogue with Kevin around different products that we could do together where it's actually based on his input, so it would be a K-Mag specific version. Just to give you some insight, the practicalities in it though is we are super busy executing on our roadmap. Kevin is super busy driving a Formula One car, so it's actually the practicalities of getting all the things lined up. But we do have a few ideas and a few plans. He came up with a few proposals that could also make the whole sim experience cooler and nicer. And when I say cooler, think about it. I'm the CEO of a cooling company. I hope that this winter that we can actually get something going so we can be concrete about it and launch some exciting products for you guys. Wow, that was an hour. Thank you very much for your interest. It's amazing that already an hour went by. I thought we just started. And thanks for all your questions. And of course, it doesn't have to end here in the sense that we can do another session one day if there's interest for it. And of course, you are always welcome to send us an email or our SoMe channels. We have lots of them. And if you're old school and want to hand deliver a written letter, you can do that. And if you're a little bit more modern and want to hand in an email, it's hello@aseteksimsports.com. Cheers, guys.